The signal came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Dr. Sarah Chen sat frozen in her chair at the SETI facility in New Mexico, her coffee growing cold as she stared at the unmistakable pattern on her screen. After 15 years of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, humanity had its answer. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth confirmed it. A massive object had entered the solar system, decelerating in a way that defied natural physics. The world held its breath as the vessel approached Earth's orbit, its sleek hull gleaming like polished obsidian against the stars. Dr. Chen led the first contact team alongside Colonel Marcus Rivera, a seasoned diplomat with a background in xenobiology. As their shuttle approached the alien vessel, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at its organic curves and the strange, pulsing lights that seemed to flow beneath its surface. "Remember," Marcus said, checking his tablet one last time, "we represent all of humanity here. Let's make it count." The beams that greeted them called themselves the Craxons. Their tall, elegant forms moved with an almost liquid grace, their iridescent skin shifting colors with their emotions. The lead diplomat, who introduced himself as High Emissary Vexthor, spoke perfect English through what they called a neural translator. "We have watched your species for some time," Vexthor explained, his skin rippling with warm golden patterns. "Your potential is remarkable. The Craxon Federation wishes to welcome humanity into the galactic community." The offer seemed too good to be true. The Craxons promised to share technology that would end disease, hunger, and environmental destruction. They spoke of faster-than-light travel, clean energy, and medical advances that bordered on miracle work. All they asked in return was permission to establish cultural exchange centers on Earth and access to what they called minimal resources, mostly common minerals and atmospheric gases. Over the next 6 months, Earth changed dramatically. Craxon technology began appearing everywhere. Hospitals received devices that could cure cancer in days. New energy plants eliminated the need for fossil fuels. The first human Craxon joint research facilities opened in major cities around the world. Dr. Chen headed one such facility in Singapore, working alongside the Craxons to understand their incredible technology. Yet something about their explanations never quite added up. The aliens were always careful to share only the end products, never the underlying principles of how their technology worked. "It's like they're giving us fish instead of teaching us to fish," she confided to Marcus during one of their weekly calls. The colonel, now Earth's chief liaison with the Craxon Federation, shared her concerns. "I've noticed patterns in their requests," he replied, his voice low despite being in his secure office. "The minerals they're mining, they're not as common as they led us to believe. And the atmospheric sampling, it's more like systematic extraction." Sarah had seen it too. The Craxons had built massive atmospheric processors across the globe, supposedly to study Earth's unique atmospheric composition. But her instruments showed they were storing something, not just studying it. Meanwhile, humanity celebrated its newfound prosperity. Disease rates plummeted. Clean energy eliminated air pollution. The first human colony ships, built with Craxon assistance, prepared for launches to Mars and Venus. Yet in quiet corners of research facilities and military installations, a few humans began to notice troubling signs. The Craxon's neural translators seemed to gather more data than necessary for simple translation. Their medical devices collected detailed genetic information about every patient they treated. Their educational programs focused heavily on human history, particularly our conflicts and technological development. One evening, as Sarah worked late in her lab, she discovered something in the code of a Craxon medical device. Buried deep within its operating system was a dormant protocol, encrypted but partially visible to her enhanced scanning software. The code contained words like containment and submission. Before she could investigate further, her computer suddenly locked up. When it rebooted, the code was gone. The next day, a new Craxon overseer was assigned to her lab, one who watched her work much more closely than before. Sarah knew she had to warn someone, but who could she trust? The Craxans had embedded themselves into every level of human society. Their ambassadors attended state dinners. Their scientists worked in top research facilities. Their ships patrolled Earth's orbit, officially to protect humanity from external threats. As she left the lab that evening, Sarah caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. Behind her, the Singapore skyline glittered with Craxan technology, their ships floating like silent watchers above the city. She couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had invited wolves into their home, and only a few people had noticed the teeth behind their smiles. In his office in Geneva, Colonel Rivera received an encrypted message from Sarah. As he read her findings, alarms began blaring across the city. Above, the Craxan ships were moving, their sleek forms no longer appearing beautiful, but predatory. The time for deception was over. The Craxan ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, their hulls now pulsing with angry red light. In research facilities across the globe, security systems suddenly activated, trapping human scientists inside. The neural translators, worn by millions of humans for easy communication with their alien visitors, simultaneously emitted a high-pitched tone that brought their wearers to their knees. Dr. Sarah Chen had removed her translator weeks ago, trusting her instincts over convenience. Now, as her colleagues collapsed around her, she quickly accessed her private terminal, initiating a program she created for exactly this scenario. The lab's data began transferring to a secure, isolated server, one built using pre-Craxan technology. High Emissary Vexthor's face appeared on every screen and communication device worldwide. His skin, once showing warm golden patterns, now rippled with deep purple and black. "Humanity has served its purpose in our evaluation," he announced, his voice no longer diplomatic but cold and calculating. "Your species possesses dangerous levels of adaptive capability and technological growth potential. The Federation cannot risk your eventual competition." In Geneva, Colonel Rivera watched in horror as massive containment fields sprouted from hidden emitters throughout the city. Similar barriers appeared in major population centers worldwide, powered by the very energy stations the Craxans had helped humans build. The alien ships began systematic patterns above each city, deploying smaller vessels that reminded Marcus of wasps emerging from a nest. "The Federation requires your world's resources," Vexthor continued. "Your species will be relocated to controlled environments where your physical capabilities can be properly utilized. Those who cooperate will be treated humanely. Those who resist..." The threat hung unfinished as the transmission ended. Immediately, the smaller ships began deploying troops, not the elegant diplomats humans had grown accustomed to, but heavily armored soldiers with multiple limbs and weapons that fired arcs of crackling energy. In her lab, Sarah worked frantically to decode the encrypted files she'd been collecting. The Craxans' deception went deeper than anyone had imagined. Their medical treatments had tagged every patient with nanoscale markers, allowing them to track population movements. The atmospheric processors weren't studying Earth's air, they were gradually altering its composition to better suit Craxan biology. Most disturbing of all, the cultural exchange centers had been mapping human neural patterns, studying how humans think and adapt. The Craxans feared humanity's potential for growth, their ability to take technology and improve upon it in unexpected ways. Where other species might take centuries to advance, humans could leap forward in decades. Colonel Rivera managed to establish contact with military commands that hadn't yet been compromised. They'd been planning this since before first contact, he reported, his voice tight with controlled anger. Every piece of technology they gave us had hidden protocols, backdoors they could activate at will. But the Craxans had made a crucial mistake. In their arrogance, they assumed that controlling their technology meant controlling humanity. They hadn't counted on people like Sarah, who had maintained old equipment alongside the new, or Marcus, who had insisted on keeping certain military communications systems separate from alien upgrades. As chaos erupted in the streets, a different kind of resistance was already forming. In underground bunkers and hidden facilities, Humans who had questioned the aliens' generosity had been preparing. They had studied Kraxan technology, not with blind acceptance, but with careful skepticism. Sarah's data revealed something crucial. The Kraxans' neural technology, the foundation of their advanced civilization, worked by creating standardized pathways in the brain. It made their society incredibly efficient, but also predictable. Human brains, with their chaotic neural patterns and ability to forge new pathways, were fundamentally different. They don't just fear our potential, Sarah realized, sharing her findings with Marcus through an old satellite network. They don't understand how we think. Their technology is based on order and consistency. Ours thrives on chaos and adaptation. Across Earth, the initial shock of betrayal was giving way to something else: rage, determination, and a uniquely human desire for revenge. In hidden labs and makeshift workshops, scientists and engineers began dissecting captured Kraxan technology. In abandoned subway tunnels and mountain caves, military veterans trained civilians in resistance tactics. The Kraxans had studied human history, but they had failed to understand its lessons. Every time humanity had faced extinction, they had fought back harder. Every time they had been knocked down, they had risen stronger. The aliens thought they were caging a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. As the first week of occupation drew to a close, Sarah made contact with other scientists who had seen through the deception. Together, they began piecing together the true nature of Kraxan technology. Marcus coordinated with military cells worldwide, gathering intelligence on alien patterns and weaknesses. In their orbital command ships, the Kraxans monitored the human population with growing concern. Their models had predicted submission, perhaps limited resistance. Instead, they were seeing something unprecedented, a species that became more organized and more dangerous with each passing day. High Emissary Vexthor received reports of increasing anomalies. Human resistance didn't follow any patterns in their tactical database. Their attacks were unpredictable, their methods constantly evolving. Worse, some humans had already begun modifying Kraxan technology in ways that should have been impossible. The web of lies was unraveling, but not in the way the Kraxans had planned. They had sought to entangle humanity in a snare of dependent technology and false promises. Instead, they had given humans exactly what they needed to fight back: intimate knowledge of their enemies' weaknesses. 3 months into the occupation, Earth had become a battlefield unlike any in human history. The Kraxans controlled the skies and major cities, but their grip on the planet was far from absolute. Humanity had gone underground, both literally and figuratively, transforming subway systems, mines, and natural cave networks into a vast web of resistance bases. Dr. Sarah Chen worked in one such base, deep beneath the ruins of Singapore. The former subway maintenance tunnel now housed a sophisticated laboratory built from salvaged equipment. Around her, a team of scientists from different disciplines worked to understand and counteract Kraxan technology. Their greatest advantage was something the aliens hadn't anticipated: human creativity unleashed by desperation. Their neural networks operate on strict protocols, Sarah explained to a group of resistance leaders via a secure channel. They designed their technology to work one way, never considering alternatives. But human brains? She pulled up a holographic display showing neural activity patterns. We create new pathways constantly. We improvise, adapt, find solutions they never imagined. In North America, Colonel Rivera led a different kind of resistance. His teams had discovered that older, simpler weapons often worked better against the Kraxans than modern firearms. Ballistic weapons, especially those using copper-jacketed rounds, could penetrate Kraxan personal shields designed to stop energy weapons. Mechanical timers and analog devices couldn't be hacked by their advanced cyber warfare systems. They expected us to rely on their technology, Marcus told his fighters. Instead, we're combining old and new in ways they never considered. His teams used bows with arrows tipped with salvaged Kraxan energy cells, creating weapons that could bypass alien defenses. Vintage radio equipment, deemed too primitive to monitor, became their secure communication network. The Resistance's greatest breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a quantum physicist working with Sarah, noticed something strange about captured Kraxan devices. Their technology isn't just based on physical principles, she explained. It's based on their way of thinking. Linear, hierarchical, absolutely structured. But quantum mechanics doesn't work that way. This discovery led to a series of experiments that revealed a critical weakness. Kraxan systems, while incredibly advanced, couldn't handle true randomness. Their neural networks required predictable patterns to function. Human minds, with their capacity for illogical leaps and intuitive connections, could create interference patterns that disrupted Kraxan tech. The Resistance began exploiting this weakness. Teams of human hackers, their brains deliberately generating chaotic thought patterns, could breach Kraxan security systems. Engineers developed devices that mimicked human neural chaos, creating blind spots in alien detection systems. The Kraxans responded with increasing force, but their actions became more predictable as they fell back on programmed responses. They couldn't comprehend why their carefully calculated strategies kept failing against what they saw as primitive guerrilla tactics. High Emissary Vexthor, now military governor of Earth, faced mounting casualties and equipment losses. These humans, he reported to the Federation Council, they're not following any known patterns of conquered species. They're evolving their resistance strategies faster than our predictive models can adapt. The Council's response was typical of their rigid thinking. Increase containment protocols. Eliminate their leadership structure. They will fall into accepted patterns of behavior. But humanity had no central leadership to eliminate. The Resistance operated in autonomous cells, sharing information but making independent decisions. It was organized chaos, something the Kraxans' hierarchical minds couldn't process. Sarah's team made another crucial discovery while studying captured Kraxan neural translators. The devices didn't just facilitate communication, they subtly altered thought patterns to make them more efficient by Kraxan standards. By rejecting these translators, humans had preserved their cognitive flexibility. They tried to make us think like them, Sarah shared in a global Resistance broadcast. But our strength lies in thinking differently. Every human mind is unique, unpredictable. Together, we're their worst nightmare, a species that thrives on chaos and change. The Resistance grew stronger each day. Humans learned to detect the subtle energy signatures of cloaked Kraxan ships. They developed countermeasures against alien surveillance. Most importantly, they began understanding how Kraxan technology could be repurposed in ways its creators never intended. In his hidden command center, Marcus received reports from around the globe. Australia's outback had become a graveyard for Kraxan patrol ships, brought down by electromagnetic pulses generated by modified mining equipment. In the Amazon, indigenous guides led Resistance fighters through paths invisible to alien sensors. The Siberian underground had turned the harsh winter to their advantage, using the cold to overload Kraxan environmental systems. The aliens had expected to find a primitive species easily controlled by advanced technology. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that grew stronger with each defeat, that learned from every encounter, that turned their own weapons against them in innovative ways. Sarah's latest research suggested something even more promising. The Kraxan's neural technology, designed to impose order and conformity, had an inherent vulnerability to synchronized chaos, the kind that human minds could naturally generate when working together. If they could amplify this effect on a global scale, the Resistance began preparing for a coordinated strike that would demonstrate why underestimating humanity was the Kraxans' greatest mistake. As Sarah often said, they thought they were caging animals, but they gave tools to innovators. They thought they were preventing a future threat, but they created their own worst nightmare. The spark of Resistance had become a fire that would soon engulf the Kraxan occupation in ways the aliens couldn't predict or control. Humanity was done playing by their rules. The abandoned quantum research facility outside Geneva hummed with activity as Dr. Sarah Chen presented her findings to resistance leaders worldwide. 6 months of occupation had taught humanity harsh lessons, but had also revealed opportunities that the Craxans never anticipated. Their entire civilization is built on neural synchronization, Sarah explained, gesturing to the holographic display showing Craxan brain patterns. Every piece of their technology, from their ships to their weapons, requires perfectly ordered neural frequencies. But human brains. She switched the display to show the chaotic beauty of human neural activity. We're natural chaos engines. Colonel Rivera, his face lined with new scars from recent battles, leaned forward in his chair. You're saying we can weaponize our own thought patterns? Better, Sarah replied. We already have. Those headaches their soldiers get during prolonged combat with humans. It's not stress, it's neural interference. Our brains naturally generate patterns that disrupt their neural tech. Now imagine if we could amplify that effect globally. The resistance had grown far beyond simple guerrilla warfare. Humanity had learned to combine their old technologies with modified Craxan systems in ways that defy the aliens' rigid thinking. Traditional radio signals, carried through repurposed Craxan quantum relays, became untraceable to alien monitoring. Mechanical weapons, enhanced with salvaged alien power sources, could now breach their strongest defenses. In orbit, the Craxan fleet faced increasing difficulties. Their ships, designed to operate in perfect synchronization, struggled against human pilots who flew with intuition and improvisation. Small, retrofitted Earth vessels could outmaneuver the larger alien ships, exploiting weaknesses that no logical combat algorithm could predict. High Emissary Vexthor watched with growing concern as his occupation forces suffered mounting losses. These humans, he reported to the Federation Council, they're not just resisting, they're evolving. Every defeat teaches them. Every captured piece of technology becomes a new weapon in their hands. The Council's response revealed their fundamental misunderstanding. Impossible. No species can adapt so quickly. Increased neural suppression protocols. But humanity had already moved beyond simple resistance. In hidden facilities worldwide, scientists like Sarah had decoded the principles behind Craxan neural technology. They discovered that human consciousness, with its unique blend of logic and intuition, could generate interference patterns that cascaded through alien neural networks. The Resistance launched Operation Mindstorm with characteristic human audacity. Using modified Craxan transmitters, they began broadcasting specific frequencies that matched human neural patterns. The effect on the alien forces was devastating. Their neural-linked weapons malfunctioned. Their perfectly coordinated tactics fell into disarray. Ships lost synchronization with their navigation systems. They made one fundamental mistake, Sarah told her team as they monitored the operation's effects. They assumed their way of thinking was superior. They never considered that our primitive minds might be more advanced in ways they couldn't understand. Marcus led the ground offensive, coordinating attacks on key Craxan installations. The aliens, accustomed to fighting with neural-linked weapons and tactical computers, found themselves facing humans who combine modern strategy with primal instinct. Resistance fighters used everything from electromagnetic pulse weapons to modified farming equipment, adapting their tactics faster than the Craxans could update their combat protocols. In major cities, the containment fields that had kept populations imprisoned began to flicker and fail. The Craxans had built them using neural-controlled power systems, systems now vulnerable to human neural interference. As the barriers fell, carefully planned uprisings began in every occupied territory. The Craxans' rigid hierarchy became their greatest weakness. Unable to adapt quickly to the changing situation, their forces followed pre-programmed responses that humans could now predict and counter. Each defeated alien unit provided new technology to reverse engineer, new tactical data to analyze, new weaknesses to exploit. Sarah's team made another crucial discovery. The Craxans' neural network wasn't just a communication system, it was the foundation of their entire society. By disrupting it, Humans weren't just fighting their technology. They were unraveling the very fabric of Kraxan civilization. They see our individualism as a weakness, Sarah explained to resistance leaders. But it's our greatest strength. Each human mind is unique, generating its own neural patterns. Together, we create a symphony of chaos that their ordered minds can't process. The tide had turned, but victory would require more than military success. Humanity needed to prove they could overcome not just the Kraxan's technology, but their entire worldview. The final battle would determine not only Earth's fate, but also demonstrate why enforced order could never triumph over creative chaos. As resistance forces pushed the Kraxans back from cities and strategic locations, Marcus received reports of alien ships retreating from Earth's orbit, but Sarah warned against premature celebration. "They'll be back," she said, studying data from their latest encounters. "And next time, they'll try to remove what they see as the source of their failure, our ability to think differently." The resistance prepared for what they knew would be the decisive phase of the war. Humanity had proven they could fight back, but now they needed to show why attempting to conquer Earth was a mistake no species should ever make again. The Kraxan Federation's response to their failing occupation came exactly as Sarah had predicted. Their massive warships emerged from hyperspace, filling Earth's skies with a display of overwhelming force. This wasn't an occupation fleet, it was an extermination force. "Your species has proven too dangerous to preserve," High Emissary Vexthor announced across all frequencies. "The Council has authorized your elimination to protect galactic order." His voice carried no emotion, just the cold certainty of a being who believed in absolute control. But humanity was ready. The past months hadn't just been about resistance, they had been preparation for this moment. In underground bunkers, orbital stations, and hidden facilities across the globe, Sarah's neural disruption technology had been refined and expanded. Marcus's military forces had developed new strategies that combined Earth's most primitive weapons with their most advanced innovations. "They still think this is about technology," Sarah told the Resistance Council from their quantum-shielded command center. "They don't understand that we've learned something far more important: how they think, and more crucially, how they can't think." The Kraxans launched their attack with mathematical precision, their ships moving in perfect formation. Energy weapons powerful enough to crack Earth's crust powered up in synchronized patterns. But this predictability was exactly what humanity had counted on. Marcus gave the signal, and Operation Chaos Symphony began. Thousands of human minds, connected through modified Kraxan neural interfaces, projected their thoughts in deliberately chaotic patterns. The effect rippled through space, carried by the very quantum networks the Kraxans had built to control their ships. The alien fleet's perfect formation began to waver. Their neural-linked weapons, designed to work in precise harmony, faltered as human consciousness infected their networks. The Kraxans had created their technology to impose order. Now that same technology became a conduit for chaos. Their whole society is built on the idea that order equals advancement, Sarah explained as she monitored the battle. They never considered that chaos could be a higher form of order. Humanity's counterattack demonstrated this principle perfectly. Earth's defenders struck from multiple directions, using tactics that defied conventional military logic. Civilian boats carried EMP devices that disabled Kraxan dropships. Ancient ballistic weapons, modified with quantum targeting systems, found gaps in alien shields that energy weapons couldn't penetrate. In orbit, human pilots flew in patterns based on jazz music and abstract art, creating battle formations that Kraxan combat computers couldn't predict. Their smaller ships danced through the alien fleet like leaves in a storm, each pilot adding their own unique chaos to the symphony of battle. The turning point came when Sarah's team activated the planetary neural network, a web of transmitters that broadcast human thought patterns across the globe. The effect on the Kraxan forces was catastrophic. Their neural-linked technology, exposed to billions of unique human minds thinking in billions of different ways, began to break down. Vexthor watched in horror as his perfect invasion force fell into disarray. "Impossible," he transmitted. "Your primitive minds cannot defeat our superior order." "That's exactly why we're winning," Sarah replied across all channels. "We're not trying to impose order. We're embracing chaos, complexity, and creativity. Everything you feared about us." The battle raged for 3 days. With each passing hour, more Kraxan ships fell to humanity's unconventional tactics. Their rigid battle plans couldn't adapt to human ingenuity. Their unified neural network, once their greatest strength, became a vulnerability that spread confusion through their entire fleet. On the 3rd day, the remaining Kraxan ships began to retreat. But humanity wasn't finished. Using captured alien technology, they transmitted a message to the Federation Council itself. Footage of their defeat, proof that their perfect order could be overcome by human chaos. "Remember this," Marcus's voice carried across space. "We didn't just defeat your technology. We proved that your entire philosophy is flawed. True advancement comes from embracing chaos, not suppressing it. True strength lies in diversity, not uniformity." The victory transformed more than just Earth. News of humanity's triumph spread through the galaxy, carried by the very quantum networks the Kraxans had built. Other species, long suppressed by the Federation's rigid order, saw proof that another way was possible. In the aftermath, Earth emerged stronger than ever. Humanity had learned to combine their chaotic creativity with advanced technology in ways the Kraxans never imagined possible. Their victory hadn't just saved Earth. It had demonstrated a new path for galactic civilization. Sarah, standing in the ruins of her old lab now being rebuilt, summed it up best. "They came to prevent us from becoming a threat to their order. Instead, they forced us to prove why diversity, creativity, and even chaos are the true engines of progress. They wanted to make us think like them, but we taught them, and the galaxy, how to think like us." The stars above Earth now held new promise. Humanity had proven they could face any challenge, adapt to any threat, and emerge stronger. They had shown why betting against human ingenuity was always a losing game. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity did best, changing everything.